Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic. In honor of Denver's decriminalization of magic mushrooms, doctors of Reddit, what, if any, is your best story of patients on hallucinogenics? I'm not a doctor, but I was working as a paramedic at a music festival when we got called to a kid tripping on who knows what. The guy had climbed to the top of a portable generator stadium light. So he's 20 feet in the air, on a light pole staring into this blazing midnight sun screaming, "I'm a moth, go into the flame." We had several cops, firefighters and myself standing at the base for 30 minutes discussing how to get him down without killing him or us. The entire time a crowd of people on drugs is surrounding us to see how it all plays out. Do we get a ladder truck and try to coax him down? What if he won't go? Do we spray mace up there? What if he falls? All of a sudden this greasy-looking janitor walks up, turns off power to the generator, turns on his flashlight and aims it at the Mothma. Dude looks at the flashlight on the ground, scambles down and follows it to the medical rent like a puppy about to get a snack. I'm embarrassed that none of us thought about that. That guy partied hard back in the day. This wasn't his first Mothman rodeo. I had a guy who was freaking out thinking he was going to die because he thought he had eaten too many hallucinogenic mushrooms. He went online and saw that sometimes patients are given activated charcoal to soak up the mushrooms in the stomach, not entirely true BTW. So he goes outside and starts chowing down on charcoal briquettes that he has in his garage for grilling. After about a dozen he realizes, holy shit, I'm eating charcoal briquettes. Now he is really freaking out, so he grabs his dog, as the thinks he is never coming back to his house, and drives himself to the ed. He parks out front, walks into triage with the pup, black charcoal all over his face and hands, and says, "I need a doctor and someone to watch my dog when I die." That's actually really considerate of the dog, if he was worried that nobody else would show up to take care of it in time following his demise. That guy had his priorities set. Was working night shift on inpatient service. Ed called to admit someone. We've got a 17-year-old down here with altered mental status. We think he needs to be admitted for evil/monitoring. VS's, chemistry fine, etc. etc. Now, I'm not a pediatrician. I don't do kids. I don't understand why the Ed is calling me. But I'm an intern and it's 2 in the morning, so arguing about it is stupid. I headed to the ed. I get there to see a young dude sitting there with his parents. I'll mention that his dad was a full bird colonel and very much fit the archetype, and his mom seemed to fit that type of personality, too. The kid is literally rolling around in his bed, alternating between crying, asking if he was going to die, rubbing his dad's hand, and telling him how much he loved him. I had to sit there, and take a history with a straight face from a 17-year-old who kept being distracted by just how much he loved his dad. I think my first question was, "Did you take anything tonight?" And he was straight up and said, "Oh, yeah, like a shit ton of acid." Want any? I 100% laughed at this statement. His dad was not amused. The patient was discharged the next morning. It was nice of him to offer to share. At least that gives them a sample for the lab, to make sure it's actually what he thinks it is, and not mixed with whatever. I don't do kids. This will help you work long enough to get a full pension. Don't do kids, drugs. I'm an anesthetist at a major hospital in Georgia. During a C-section the epidural seemed to not fully be working and the patient was feeling pain, so we were forced to give ketamine. Ketamine has many effects and one of which is profound pain blocking, analgesia. It's safe to use in this case because it won't stop the baby from breathing like morphine or fentanyl would. Ketamine also causes hallucinations, like severe hallucinations. Patient stopped screaming from pain and began screaming from the dragons. Oh shit. Oh shit. AHHH, get them away, while being totally pain-free and comfortable. It was not in a terrified way but more of an excited I can't believe it kind of way. When the baby came out and began crying it turned to what in the fuck is that? Oh my god. That lasted a solid 20 minutes. Edit, thanks for the gold. First gold coin ever. Got high, had a kid, saw dragons. All in the same day. Lucky patient. This is how Imagine Dragons was formed. The final season we all wanted. At least you guys believed your patient was in pain. Heard a lot of women say they could feel everything during a C-section, but doctors said it wasn't possible and just kept cutting and pulling. Edit: in case it's not clear, feel everything means the women said they felt excruciating pain. And yes, they were told it was just pressure while they were literally screaming from the pain. Thank you to the commenter below who helpfully explained some women are just hysterical and aren't really in pain, just confused. You horrify me. When they are in actual pain you can tell. You can actually still feel everything during a C-section with an epidural /spinal aesthetic. Your sense of touch and pressure remains intact, it's just your sense of pain / temperature and the ability to move is gone. Some patients start to freak out because they feel them touching, and we have to explain that's normal, and if they feel burning or pain then something is wrong. When they pull the baby out they have to push hard, and that part is quite uncomfortable since the mom still feels all that pressure. Doc as well. Used to work with CP kids that were given ketamine prior to Botox injections in their extremities. There was a giant cabinet filled with stuffed animals and toys that they were allowed to pick from once they had mostly recovered. One little 6-year-old, who was still having some mild effects from the ketamine, opened the cabinet and saw the stuffed animals. She got a huge smile and said, "Oh, they're alive. They're all waving at me." She proceeded to dive into a pile of stuffed animals and have a very animated conversation with the living stuffed animals. It was adorable. Edit: CP means cerebral palsy in pediatrics. Sorry for the confusion. Was replying to another medical person. Didn't think about how it might be read by non-medical redditors. Can't say I expected to read a wholesome story about children on K in this thread. Or ever. I had a patient who had taken an ungodly amount of Benadryl in a failed suicide attempt. A lot of people think that since it makes you drowsy, a bunch of it might be able to kill them in their sleep. Instead of killing them though, Benadryl basically gives you absolutely terrifying hallucinations for like 24 hours or more and then leaves you with the worst multi-day hangover you have ever had in your life. He would not stop yelling and screaming about that damn cat poking its head out of the ceiling tiles every single time I left the room. He also had short bursts of thinking he was covered in bugs and I would find him stripped naked and yelling into the wall. "Fucking ceiling cat, he sees you every time." He was very upset that we had put him in the cat room. On my 18th birthday I drank a bunch of liquid Benadryl just to get high. Hey, we had to be creative. We were broke. For the rest of the day and night I lay there thinking that my body had stopped breathing subconsciously and I had to actually consciously tell myself to breathe. Because I was so fucked up, my mind would wander and I would suddenly come to the realization that I was forgetting to breathe and start gasping for air. It was horrible. I totally thought I was gonna die. I experienced this exact scenario but simply from an edible. I got in bed next to my mom who was asleep and tried to actively time my breathing to hers because moms know best and surely I wouldn't die if I copied her. Oh man, I've done this before. Benadryl is a deliriat, and after it hit me, I had to get my brother to drive me to the The glove container in the room had a small glove on the front that wouldn't stop waving at me. Transparent flies all in the air. A cone right outside my door kept vibrating. 0/10 never again. Benadryl management response: we thank you very much for your review and apologize your experience was not a positive one. We will forward your comments on and speak with glove. Deliriats are no joke. There's a legend on the /r/drugs subreddit about a user who decided to eat a bunch of datura seeds even though everyone was telling him not to, and he's never been seen since his fateful last comment. Google.com How normal again, stop now. https www.reddit.com/r/drugs/comments/65ytbw. Poor dude is the perfect example of why you should listen to people on a sub dedicated to drugs when they are overwhelmingly telling you not to do something. Never heard a good story that had datura in it. Unsure why people use it, given all the accounts that can be read on the internet. I'm a doctor but have never seen a patient come in on hallucinogens. But outside of work my favorite was a Russian guy in a hostel in Amsterdam who forgot how to speak for 8 hours but could barely write English, so it was like a really long game of Pictionary for the poor fella. Oh my god, it's a doctor. Without a story, as expected, because who goes to the for hallucinogens? My favorite was an American guy in a hostel in Amsterdam who fell into a loop, saying the same things over and over, pacing in circles, and eventually freaked and tried to hop the courtyard wall. Cops came, shrugged, and called the EMTs. EMTs came, shrugged, and gave the guy a blanket and helped calm him down. Now that I typed it out, it's a lot less interesting than a good alcohol story, I guess. It's kind of funny imagining all these people shrugging when asked to interact with the guy. Actual doctor, close enough. Actual doctor, Shia LaBeouf. Had a friend become impatient with mushrooms once. He took an eighth, and an hour later decided they weren't very strong, so the most logical thing to do would be eat his other eighth. Cut to 2 hours later, and he is parked on top of a parking garage. Tried to drive across town when they kicked in and he immediately realized his fuck up. He tried to wait it out, but after being abandoned by everyone else, I wasn't around, no way in hell would I have left the poor guy on 7 grams of shrooms to his own devices, and he decides he needs help. So he calls 911. While on the phone he wants to be as honest as possible, so he tells them about his .22 caliber rifle behind the seat of his truck. Only it comes out as, there's a gun in the car. He says he was tripping and sweating so badly, it was July. The next thing he remembers is hearing a tick 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 and looking up to being surrounded by police, guns drawn and ready for anything. Friend isn't a danger though, so they get him in an ambulance, and give him charcoal to induce vomiting. The rest of the night is a blur for him, and he wakes up cuffed to the bed. They ask him if there's anyone he can call for a ride, and he tells them his mom is a nurse who works on the 2nd floor. Apparently while tripping he kept telling them to go upstairs and get mom, so they all have a chuckle realizing his mom really was upstairs. Dude, I couldn't tell you where my left hand was on 7 grams of shrooms, much less my mother. If I ate 7 grams of shrooms I wouldn't even be able to grasp the concept of hands.